I'm Edward Warfield. I'm the publisher of Citybiz, and I'm honored today to have Tammy Thomas from Techco interview Connor Roberts, who is the founder of Opal HTM.
Yes. So, Connor, tell us a little about Opal HTM and how it's impacting the medical device and healthcare industries.
Yeah, thanks, Tammy. So we make hospitals more efficient by transforming how they manage and maintain medical equipment. So for context, I want you to think about the last time you were in a hospital and consider the sheer amount of technology in that building. There are devices to diagnose patients, to treat patients, to keep them comfortable, to monitor vital signs. The list goes on. Now, we are truly lucky to live in an era of high-tech healthcare, but it's possible to have too much of a good thing. And that's what hospitals are dealing with right now. Every year hospitals in the US spend $32 billion on medical equipment and upkeep, but that equipment ends up sitting idle 58% of the time on average. And on top of that, each of these devices are being rigorously maintained as if they were being used around the clock. This all stems from one core problem. Hospitals have no reliable way to track how or even if their equipment is being utilized. That's where Opal HTM comes in. We track where, when, and how often medical equipment is used. We accomplish this using wireless sensor modules that interface directly with medical devices. I actually have a mock-up right here. So similar to this white device you can see here, there's a mock of our Opal HTM modules, and this one's connected to a power cord for a sequential compression device. You can see a couple of them back there. They're very common devices in hospitals. So these Opal modules detect usage with unprecedented accuracy. We can tell when a machine is plugged in or not, when it's on or off, and even its operational state. So we then analyze this data for patterns and inefficiencies, giving hospital staff the insights they need to safely reduce equipment-related expenses through optimized inventory, procurement, and maintenance. We estimate that with Opal HTM, our customers will be able to reduce inventories by up to 25% and cut maintenance workloads in half, saving them millions of dollars a year and reclaiming valuable staff time that can be put towards improving the environment of patient care.
Connor, that is so impressive. But share with us a little bit, like what inspired the idea behind your technology?
The basic idea behind Opal HTM is the odometer in your car, the thing that tracks the mileage, because that odometer is what tells you when the car needs maintenance. You need to change your oil every 5,000 miles, rotate your tires every 8,000 or so, brake change at 50,000. We're taking that basic principle and that we're all familiar with and making it available to hospitals. For most households, that's mostly where the odometer, stops. That's what it's for. But imagine if you run a trucking company or FedEx or UPS. When you have to manage a whole fleet, those mileage readings are crucial to knowing if you have enough trucks or too many and when they'll need to be replaced. So that too is a key aspect of asset management that is long overdue in healthcare. And Opal HTM is finally making that possible. But this wasn't always the idea, actually. And so it's actually an interesting story about how we got here. This started out as a research project at the George Washington University. I was working with Dr. Shitu there, who is still a close partner of the company. And we were working to develop a sensor network to provide condition-based maintenance in healthcare settings, which is something our sponsor wanted. And that meant we were tracking temperature, humidity, physical bumps and shocks, and trying to use those conditions to predict maintenance on equipment. That was great. It was a cool project. But we ended up going through, have you heard of the I-Corps program?
Of course. Come on.
Yeah. So we ended up going through the I-Corps program, and that takes scientists and engineers and forces them to get out of the building, to get out of the lab, and actually talk to customers, do some customer discovery, see what the people actually need. We did that with Dan Kunitz at the university level, and then we went on to the national program from there. And pretty quickly we found out, oh boy, we are not making something that anybody actually wants. And I laugh about it now, but it was really, really scary at the time. We went from hospital to hospital, and everywhere we were told the same story. Medical equipment's not really breaking down from its physical environment. If anything, we're over maintaining it, and it's really stretching us thin. And so that was the first, about 50 interviews. And we kind of broadened our questions over the next 50 and started learning more about, procurement. And how hard it is to figure out what equipment to purchase. Some stories that stick out in my mind. We were hearing how year after year, clinicians ask for this device and that device, more of this or that. and the hospital can't, purchase it all. It's expensive stuff. And so they were having to use, consumable purchases, looking at, okay, how much tubing did we use last year? How much saline did we go through? And to try to estimate what's actually being used so you know what you should buy, equipment-wise for next year. And so that was really interesting. And somewhere around that time, maybe or maybe during the next 100 customer interviews, it ended up being a long ICOR. It kind of clicked for us. Hospitals need utilization tracking to solve these problems. And we could pivot the sensor system we'd already been working on to meet that need, to accomplish that end. And ever since then, it's just been off to the races. I still actually have the ICOR plaque in the back, the one with Uncle Sam up there, because that journey was so integral to this company.
Love it. Yes. Yes. Oh my God. That is such a great story about how you pivoted, right? So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit more then of what are some of the key milestones for Opal HTM since you launched the company?
Yeah, sure. I love talking about this. So definitely the investments, that we brought in this year, that's been huge. And this most recent one from Techco, which has brought the two of us together today. And we had another earlier in the year from a digital health accelerator called LaunchLane. I actually have a LaunchLane hat. I have a Techco tote bag. So when I go grocery shopping, I look kind of like one of those, soccer players or NASCAR drivers, just with my sponsors all over me.
Right.
I go out of the house dressed in my cap table, practically.
I love
it. So that's just been great. It's been a better year for us on that front. And another major milestone that we're actually getting close to wrapping up right now. It's this huge data analysis project we've been working on with GW. And we're looking at the utilization of infusion pumps and comparing that against maintenance logs to actually define the causal relationship between those two things. And there are, I think, at this point, just shy of about 30 hospitals collaborating on the project. And it's being funded by the preeminent trade group in the industry called AAMI, AMI for short. And so to be clear that, it's an academic project, it's purely for the public good, nothing proprietary, but it's really incredible and affirming to see that this issue is something that hospitals and healthcare technology managers are really deeply interested in. So that's been fantastic. And finally, I have to mention our patents. Getting those was a game changer for this company. And on a personal level, as an engineer, that's just something that you always dream of. And so I have to thank the folks at the GW Technology Commercialization Office for seeing the promise in this tech and making that happen. I think if we come out of a different university, in some other region somewhere, we might not be in such an amazing, strong shape with our intellectual property right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. The DMV, District of Columbia, Maryland, Virginia region, this is the place to be. Like for all of those that are listening to us today, you heard it from Connor. This region is for startups. So, right. It's a mutual love fest going back and forth between the founders and places like Techco and the organizations that can help your company grow. So
yeah, that's
Connor,
why. Oh, sorry, Tammy.
No, go ahead.
No, that's why every meeting, every presentation I give, I got Charles County, Maryland, right there above my head.
Yes.
It out there.
Yes, I love it. So Connor, for all of those that they might be struggling right now, I want to put this question out there to you. Due to the impact of COVID-19, what changes has Opal HTM had to make?
COVID really hit us at a bad time. I had actually just made the leap to start working on Opal HTM full time around early 2020. So not ideal. Now, being a tiny startup at the time, we already had work from home down pat, so that was fine. But hospitals were basically unreachable because they were so slammed. And our main source of funds at the time came through university research grants. And the universities pretty much ground to a halt. And along with them, so did our accounts receivable, So it was really hard. And Techco actually was vital, in pulling Opal HTM through that. But as tough as it was, that experience did reveal an important application for our technology. Remember at the time, there was a lot of fear and difficulty over hospitals running out of equipment, especially ventilators. And the federal government was trying to figure out, okay, who needed it and how much exactly, we're trying to divvy out the national stockpile. And if Opal HTM had been deployed nationwide at the time, we could have shown the real-time utilization levels for equipment across different hospitals and regions. It helps inform optimal deployment of those assets where they are most needed. And actually, to try to stay on top of things, just to show you this was a real need that existed, the VA at the time had implemented a program where they monitored ventilator and ICU bed utilization manually. And I mean, they had hospital staff already stretched thin, battling the pandemic, go and take account of what was in use and then log it into a system multiple times a day. So important, but tough to do in that environment. And with Opal HTM, that could have been accomplished automatically and on an even greater scale.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, for those that are listening to Connor and I today, you might not be familiar with Techco. Techco is where we help to identify, invest in, and grow technology and life science startup companies in Maryland. So my next question for Connor, even though he alluded to a little bit of it, I just want to make sure that people understand how Techco can help your company. So Connor, can you tell us how has Techco helped Opal HTM to grow?
Yeah, and there's a lot to talk about. Techco's been crucial. So keeping with COVID-19 for a moment, for much of 2020, we had frequent strategy sessions with our Techco mentor, Tiffany Davis. And that really kept us on track. I mean, everything seemed like it was falling apart. It was hard to keep going when you're not sure about, how you or your family or the country for that matter is going to look, after this thing. And Tiffany was such a great sounding board during that time. And she really helped me keep an eye on the ball and just stay focused, hitting our milestones. It almost, it almost felt like therapy sessions sometimes, like business therapy, where we were just like, what is going on right now? And then also, have you hit these milestones this week? And it was just such a wonderful boon during such a dark time. And on top of that, I mentioned earlier how the pandemic severely interrupted our ability to do business. And Techco had put in place a program called Rubric, which provided COVID-19 relief to rural and underserved technology businesses in Maryland. That really kept us alive and helped us avoid falling way behind. Rubric was just huge for us. And then, of course, there's the Rural Business Innovation Initiative, which has made the most recent investment in Opal HTM, and that's fantastic. And even before that, they helped furnish us with some of the test equipment that you see behind me here, which has been integral to our product development. And I actually want to tell one more story, if you'll allow it. So a year or two back, Tiffany told me about the Crab Pot Pitch Competition, which is for tech startups in Southern Maryland. And I went there and we actually placed, got some funding, which was great. And I also met a lot of tech leaders from the area, including the competition judges. So fast forward a few months, and now I'm at the Techco Expo. And as an aside, I met, some of our soon-to-be manufacturing partners, some other partners. So the expo is already, going great for me. But I ran into one of the Crab Pot judges, Vandro Valenti, and he recognized me from before. And so after the expo, he agrees to sit down with me, give me some pointers, kind of show me the ropes.
From Air Agility, right?
Yeah, from Air Agility, exactly.
There you go.
Famous guy around here, yeah. And he tells me about this great SBIR proposal lab that Techco runs that helped his company get federal funding. And then he went so far as to personally recommend Opal HTM to the folks running the lab. I apply. And so then fast forward another couple of months, and I'm sitting in a class getting this amazing in-depth guidance on how to create just winning proposals. And so the lessons from that program, we've since directly put to use, successfully acquiring grants and investments, and we'll be submitting an SBIR app in the near future, which I'm confident is going to get funded. So I like to tell that story because in that story, there's three separate interventions by Techco. My Techco mentor tells me about Crab Pot. Then I go to the Techco Expo, and then the SBIR proposal lab, and all those things. It's almost like dominoes or a chain reaction or something. Where one great thing leads to another. It's just a really fantastic ecosystem that Techco's constructed in the state.
I love it. So what you're saying again is Maryland is the place for startups to come, no matter where you're located in Maryland, whether it's in the rural area, the urban area, or some of the central areas, that you can come here and successfully grow your companies. And for those who aren't familiar with Techco's Entrepreneur Expo that Connor mentioned, in 2019, we had over 1,100 companies come to this all-day celebration of entrepreneurs, where we helped to put in one space all of these resources to help them to grow. So it's economic development folks, associations with businesses, investors, potential contract vehicles, everything in that one place to celebrate entrepreneurs. And also he mentioned Techco's SBIR, STTR proposal lab. And in fact, we're opening up applications for that program now. This is like the number one non-dilutive funding to grow your startups is to go through to get an SBIR or a STTR grant. And Techco helps you to figure out how to write award-winning proposals. So Connor, thank you so much. Now, before I let you go, I have one last question. You're just so awesome.
Oh, geez, thanks. I appreciate
it. We're talking to these other CEOs and founders that are putting it on the line. And you talked about how, you had the idea and how you came about. You even did some pivoting because you went through the I-Corps program. But tell us a little bit about what's your vision for the future of Opal HTM?
Yeah, I'd love to. So there's near term, there's long term. Near term, it's all about getting to an infield pilot so we can show definitively how our technology works and how powerful the data is that it's generating. So we're currently looking for hospital partners, especially those with innovative technology or engineering teams. So if you're seeing this and you fit that bill, I'd love to talk. Now, long term, I'm not exaggerating when I say that Opal HTM is seeking to fundamentally transform how medical equipment is managed. 10 years from now, I think we'll see this technology applied to the vast majority of devices in the country. And by then, I hope to be partnering with device manufacturers so our tech is being built directly into the equipment. And then everything from procurement to maintenance to replacement to equipment sharing across organizations to charge capturing to pandemic response, like I said earlier, everything medical equipment related will be data-driven, optimized, and so easy and seamless. In my work, I end up going to a lot of these healthcare technology management gatherings. AME, MD Expo. There's a great one in Maryland called BMET, which stands for Baltimore Medical Engineers and Technicians Society. So it's always fun going to these gatherings and seeing the old timers mixing with the newer folks, handing down, little bits of wisdom. And I like to think about one of those conversations taking place in the future, where the young technician is complaining about, this or that, and the old timer chimes in and says, "Ha, you got it easy. Back in my day, we had to do all of this without Opal HTM." And the young people will just have a look of horror on their faces. They can hardly imagine it. Like explaining dial-up or fax machines today, right? So that's my vision. I mean, maybe it's a little cheesy, but it keeps me motivated. But that's the future that Opal HTM is working towards.
I love it. But you know what? I'm a marketing person, a storyteller. Oh, yeah? So I'm just going to ask you to change, instead of saying old timer, let's just say seasoned. We like to think of ourselves as being seasoned.
Seasoned professionals.
Well, Connor, thank you so much for talking to me today about Opal HTM and how we've partnered together with Techco to help another company, great Maryland company, grow. And Edwin, thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your session today and helping us to get the word out to other entrepreneurs that perhaps would need the type of resources, funding and resources that Techco has to offer.